Imagine dying. Like you close your eyes for the very last time, and you're just perfectly confident in whatever comes next.
Right, you're expecting the pearly gates or maybe reincarnation or...
Or just a peaceful, dreamless void. But instead of any of that, you wake up in this sterile waiting room. You're sitting on a squeaky metal folding chair.
Oh, the worst kind of chair.
Exactly. And sitting right across from you is this 8-foot-tall, red-skinned, yellow-eyed demon who checks a clipboard and just casually informs you that, unfortunately, you were completely wrong.
Yeah, you just failed the final exam.
Right. He tells you the one true faith, the only one that actually got it right, was Zoroastrianism.
Which is just, I mean, it is the ultimate theological rug pull. You prepare for this exam your entire life, only to find out you were studying the wrong subject.
In the wrong language.
In the wrong language, for the wrong school entirely.
It's wild. So today, we are looking at an incredibly bizarre, terrifying, and just endlessly fascinating source text. It's Stephen L. Peck's novella, A Short Stay in Hell.
Yeah, and it is quite a ride.
It really is.
Yeah.
Our mission for this deep dive is to explore this text as a profound meditation on eternity, faith, human nature, and really just the sheer crushing scale of infinity.
Because, you know, people throw around words like forever or infinity so casually, like, oh, a long line at the grocery store takes forever.
Right, or the number of stars is infinite.
Exactly. But Peck actually forces you to feel the physical and psychological weight of those concepts. And he does it by completely subverting our expectations of what punishment actually is.
Yeah, and he does it right out of the gate with our protagonist, Soren Johansson. So Soren is this faithful 45-year-old Mormon guy who just died of brain cancer.
Tragic.
And he wakes up in that waiting room we talked about, face to face with this minor demon functionary named Xandern, who is a Yazada.
Just a total middle management demon.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So Soren and all the other newly deceased people in this room are terrified, right?
Huh?
Because behind the demon's desk is this massive window looking out over your classic lake of fire.
It's just people screaming in agony, demons poking them with pitchforks, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. But then Xandern casually sighs and admits it's basically just a screensaver.
I love that part.
It's a holographic projection. And he says the people screaming in the fire are literally just actors whose shift ends in half an hour.
The demon even mocks the human imagination for inventing eternal physical torment. He basically calls it uncreative and needlessly cruel.
Like it's beneath them.
Right, and that detail immediately signals to the reader that we are not entering a hell of fire and brimstone, we are entering an administrative hell.
A completely psychological one. Okay, so let's unpack this, because once Xandern finishes his paperwork, Soren is zapped into his actual assigned afterlife.
Which is not what you'd expect.
No, not at all. He wakes up, looks down at his hands, and realizes he is in a pristine, perfectly healthy, 25-year-old version of his own body.
No more cancer.
None. But he is standing in this drab, cavernous library.
And the architecture of this space is deeply unsettling. He's in a wide corridor with a gray institutional carpet.
The kind you'd see in a boring office building.
Yes. And on one side are just rows of bookshelves stretching out into the distance, but on the other side is a simple metal railing overlooking a bottomless chasm.
Just a straight drop into nothing.
Yeah. And across that chasm, about 100 feet away, is another set of identical balconies and shelves just going up and down as far as the eye can see.
And every 300 yards along this walkway, there is a break in the shelves featuring a giant digital clock.
That's just ticking.
Soren looks up and sees this readout. Year 0000000. Day 2.
Day 2.
And next to the clock is a sign outlining the rules. The entire premise here is based on a famous thought experiment by the writer Jorge Luis Borges called the Library of Babel.
Which is a mind-bending concept on its own.
Totally. This library basically contains every single book that could possibly be written using a standard set of characters.
And the task to get to heaven is deceptively simple. You just have to wander this library, pull books off the shelves, and find the single specific book that contains the exact story of your earthly life.
But without a single grammatical or factual error.
Right. And once you find it, you just drop it in a return slot and you are immediately freed to go to a glorious heaven.
But here's the thing. While you search, you are incredibly well taken care of.
You are.
There are food kiosks by the clocks. You can type in literally any craving, and it appears instantly perfectly prepared.
Like a Star Trek replicator.
Exactly. Soren asks for this highly specific purple aardvark vanilla shake from a local diner he loved back in Utah, and it just materializes ice cold.
Sounds pretty good, actually.
Right. Plus, there are comfy beds, hot showers, and you are entirely immortal. The rules state that if you are killed or injured, you just wake up the next morning at dawn, completely healed in your bed.
So you have endless perfect food, the vitality of a 25-year-old, and a safe, climate-controlled environment to exist in.
But hold on, though. I mean, if you have endless amazing food, a young, indestructible body, and zero risk of permanent injury, you're describing a really long, admittedly boring escape room.
Yeah, it sounds like a weird vacation.
Right. So if you have literally forever to solve a puzzle in perfect comfort, where is the actual torture?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the torture lies in the total absence of context.
Okay, what do you mean?
Physical comfort combined with an impossibly monotonous, meaningless task is actually the absolute apex of psychological destruction.
Wow.
If you look closely at the rules on that sign, one of the most devastating is rule number 6. It says all contracts, bonds, commitments, covenants, pledges, and promises entered into prior to your entering hell are null and void.
Oh, wow. So Soren realizes he's no longer married to his wife for eternity.
Exactly.
And in his Mormon faith, eternal marriage is a core tenet. That's a huge deal. That bond is just erased with a stroke of a bureaucratic pen.
The library strips away all of your previous earthly commitments. It leaves the mind completely unmoored.
So you have a perfect body and endless food, but you are robbed of your purpose, your identity, and your connection.
You are reduced to basically a biological machine whose only function is to pull books off a shelf forever.
And the books themselves are where that horror really starts to sink its teeth in, I think. Because every single volume looks identical.
Yeah, they're all leather-bound, gold trim.
410 pages.
Don't worry.
40 lines per page. 80 characters per line. But when Soren and the other inmates actually open them, it's just pure gibberish.
Nothing makes sense.
Just random letters, numbers, and punctuation marks, page after page of static.
Because that's the mathematical reality of a library containing every possible combination of characters. The vast, vast, vast majority of those combinations will form absolute nonsense.
And it drives people crazy trying to find a signal in that noise.
Yeah.
Like, there is this deeply unsettling story in the text about a man named Biscuit.
Oh, Biscuit.
He was formerly homeless on Earth, and after years of searching, he finds a book with the phrase "sack it" buried in the middle of a page of random letters.
Just those 2 words.
Just sack it.
Yeah.
And Biscuit used to carry all his earthly belongings in a green army sack. So he loses his mind with joy.
He takes that random cluster of letters and transforms it into a prophecy.
He really does. He does the most convoluted numerology you can imagine.
Oh, yeah, the math he does is wild.
He notes that sack is on page 345, line 21. He takes the line number, divides it by 3, multiplies the character position, carries the one. I mean, he uses this totally broken math to prove to everyone that finding the word sack, it guarantees they will all find their life stories in exactly 10 years.
Which is tragic because they absolutely won't.
Not even close.
But Biscuit's reaction reveals a fundamental truth about human nature. He isn't crazy, he's adapting to his environment.
Right.
The human brain is a pattern recognition machine. We are hardwired to find meaning, to connect dots, to see faces in the clouds or invent constellations out of random scatterings of stars.
Yeah, we have to make sense of things.
In a complete vacuum of meaning, we will manufacture it. We have to, just for our own psychological survival.
And that desperate need for meaning leads to one of the most darkly funny, but also deeply depressing scenarios in the entire novella. Yes. So fast forward to year 102 in hell. Soren and his friends have been wandering the stacks for over a century now, and they have formed a makeshift university in the library.
It's so absurd.
Soren's acting as a professor of geology, and they even hold an annual award ceremony for the most significant text found that year.
Picture the desperation of that. After an entire year with dozens of people searching all day, every day, scanning millions of pages of static.
And the grand prize winner, the phrase that brings these people to actual tears of joy, is, get this, "The bat housed again, 4 leaves of it."
They're celebrating a completely nonsensical sentence about a bat housing 4 leaves.
Right.
But they do it because it contains actual recognizable syntax.
They analyze the grammar as if it's high art. They're like, look, it starts with an article. It has a working verb.
Because the alternative is accepting the absolute crushing randomness of their existence.
Yeah, if they don't celebrate that stupid sentence, they have to face the fact that we have spent 102 years of a conscious eternity achieving absolutely nothing.
The university, the awards, the geology professorship, it's all just a massive coping mechanism. Soren is a geologist studying the quote-unquote strata of a carpeted floor and bookshelves.
Which is ridiculous.
Because the human mind requires structure in an environment that actively resists it.
And the environment is just so aggressive in its sameness. The lack of variation is literally suffocating.
It really is.
Like Soren eventually decides to just start running. He runs down the corridor for 3 weeks straight, doing marathon distances every single day.
Just trying to find something new.
Anything new. But he realizes a deeply disturbing detail about the population of this particular sector of hell. There is zero diversity. Everyone he meets is a white, English-speaking American who died within the exact same 60-year window.
There are no people from other eras, no other cultures, no ancient Romans or future cyborgs.
And there was no nature either. No sounds of wind, no insects, no weather, just endless gray carpet, the soft hum of the kiosks, and the smell of old paper.
This homogeneity is the next layer of the torture. Human beings rely on contrast to feel alive.
Right, we need change.
I mean, day and night, hot and cold, different cultures, varying landscapes. Without variance, time stops feeling like time. It just becomes a stagnant pool.
Just a flat line.
A perfectly flat, safe, unchanging environment is fundamentally hostile to the human soul. It's sensory deprivation on a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
And eventually, the brain can only play make-believe with makeshift universities for so long before that deprivation fractures the psyche entirely.
Which leads to things getting really dark. Because in a realm where no one can permanently die, that psychological fracture manifests as endless, inescapable violence.
The dire Dan situation.
Yeah, which brings us to year 1145. So over a millennium has passed. A man named Dire Dan snaps. He claims that God spoke to him in his bedroom, calling humanity slime and a stink in the nostrils.
Just totally unhinged.
Completely. Dan announces that his divine mission is to become God's mace, tasked with violently torturing his fellow inmates to punish them for their sins.
And because of the rules of this hell, this creates a unique Sisyphean type of horror. You can't truly die. You wake up perfectly healed every morning.
So the violence has no permanent consequence.
Which means it has no end.
Exactly. Dan and his gang hunt people down. They beat them to death every single day. They torture them until dawn. The victim wakes up fully healed in their bed, and the gang tracks them down to do it all over again.
It destroys the fragile peace of the library entirely.
Soren and his friends have to run and hide like prey. And this directly leads to the tragedy of Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel is the one anchor Soren has left.
Soren and Rachel have been together for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of deep, genuine love. They played games, they talked, they kept each other sane.
They are the only real meaning either of them has managed to forge in this gray void.
But one day, Dan's violent gang corners them against the railing overlooking the bottomless chasm. There is no escape. They are about to be captured and subjected to daily, unending torture.
So she makes the only choice she has left to preserve her autonomy.
Rachel looks at Soren, smiles, says I love you, and throws herself over the railing into the abyss.
If we connect this to the big picture, in the absence of physical death, psychological cruelty becomes the only currency of power.
Wow, yeah.
Dire Dan can't permanently kill you, but he can take away your safety and your agency. Rachel chooses the abyss, she chooses an eternity of falling over, giving Dan that power.
But by doing so, Soren loses the one thing that gave his eternity meaning. He is utterly broken.
Just completely empty.
So the next time Soren is captured, he is forced to listen to Dire Dan give this self-righteous, rambling speech near the edge of the chasm. And Soren simply snaps. He tackles Dan around the waist and they both go over the railing.
This is where the physics and the raw mechanics of this hell become truly horrifying.
Yeah, they're in free fall for eons. The
Yeah.
mechanical horror of this is staggering to even think about.
Yeah.
You're falling at terminal velocity, about 120 miles per hour, through the empty space between the shelves.
Just rushing air and darkness.
And Dan actually manages to break Soren's neck during the struggle on the way down. So Soren is tumbling, paralyzed. The wind is roaring in his ears so loudly it's deafening.
But think about the daily reset rule. Every morning at dawn, Soren wakes up fully healed. But he's still in midair. He's still falling.
And he gets incredibly thirsty. He falls for days, his tongue swelling in his mouth, until he literally dies of dehydration in midair.
Oh my God.
Then he wakes up the next morning, completely refreshed, only to start dying of thirst all over again. He eventually drifts away from Dan in the air currents, but he just keeps plummeting.
Past floors, past other people on the balconies who just watch him blur past.
It forces you to confront the physical duration of eternity. He falls for an incalculable amount of time, He even masters the aerodynamics of his own robe, using it like a wingsuit to glide around.
Just to try and aim for something.
Right. He figures out how to angle his body to smash into the railing of a passing floor. This takes him dozens of tries. He shatters his legs, breaks his back, dies on impact, wakes up the next morning still falling.
Because the momentum resets.
Yeah. Finally, he manages to hook his arms onto a railing and pull himself onto the carpet.
So he finds solid ground, but his motivation is completely shifted by this point. The books don't matter anymore.
Not at all. He decides he has to jump again to try and find the absolute bottom of the library so he can start searching for Rachel.
Right.
But before he reaches the bottom, he has this brief, beautiful, and utterly tragic mid-air encounter. He is falling, and he sees a body plummeting past him. He maneuvers over and grabs her.
And she's dead.
She is dead, having tried to smash into a floor and missed. He ties her body to his, and the next morning, she wakes up in his arms. Her name is Wand. She tells him she has been falling and trying to grapple back onto the library floors 783 times.
783 deaths on impact, waking up in free fall every single time.
It's insane. They cling to each other.
Yeah.
They fall together for days, forming this really intense, desperate bond.
And they come up with a plan to get her back onto a floor.
Yeah, they hold hands and spin each other in circles, faster and faster, like a maple seed pod falling from a tree.
To build momentum.
Yes, they build enough centrifugal force, he lets go, and she shoots horizontally into the stacks. She makes it. Soren intentionally crashes into the railing below her, dies, and wakes up the next morning on the floor beneath hers. He immediately starts sprinting up the stairs to find her.
Month after month, floor after floor.
He searches for millennia, but he never finds her. He loses track of her in the endless identical corridors. He never sees Wand again, and he never finds Rachel either. He is completely alone.
That encapsulates the deepest tragedy of this environment. You can forge a profound human connection, but the scale of the environment will inevitably swallow it up.
The library is just too big.
The library is so massive that finding a specific person you lost track of is statistically indistinguishable from zero.
And to truly grasp that scale, we have to look at the ultimate revelation of the text. After ages of wandering, Soren meets a mathematician named Master Took.
Ah, yes, Master Took.
Took has finally sat down and calculated the actual physical size of the library based on the rules of the books.
This is where the abstract, fuzzy idea of infinity gets replaced with hard, terrifying, concrete numbers.
Yeah, so to understand how big this place is, think about a standard deck of 52 playing cards. If you shuffle that deck properly, the specific order of those cards is so mathematically unique that it has likely never existed before in the history of the universe.
Just 52 variables create astronomical combinations.
Exactly. Now, apply that to a book. There are 95 possible characters on a standard keyboard. Each book has exactly 1,312,000 characters.
So to find the total number of possible books, you take the number of characters available, 95, and raise it to the power of the number of spaces in the book. 95 to the power of 1,312,000.
And Master Took calculates the physical distance Soren would have to travel. Assuming standard bookshelves and standard floor heights, the library is roughly 7.1 6 times 10 to the power of 1,297,369 light years wide and deep.
Let's anchor that math because auditory numbers can just wash over the brain.
Please do.
In our actual observable universe, there are roughly 10 to the power of 78 electrons. Not atoms, electrons.
The basic building blocks of literally everything.
Yes. So instead of just saying 10 to the power of a million, imagine taking every single electron in our entire universe.
Okay.
Now turn every single one of those microscopic particles into its own separate, full-size universe. Count all the electrons in those universes. You still aren't even close to a fraction of a percent of the number of books in this library.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because Soren isn't facing infinity.
No, he's not.
He's facing a finite number. But it is a number so staggeringly, incomprehensibly massive that human cognition completely breaks down trying to process it.
When Took explains this, the math absolutely breaks Soren. He realizes he is only a tiny fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the way down.
He realizes he will never, ever find Rachel.
Took says that perfectly finite does not mean much if you can't tell any practical difference between it and infinite.
It's one thing to hear a demon tell you that you'll be here forever.
Yeah, that's just a word.
But it's another to see the mathematical proof that your task will outlast the birth, expansion, and heat death of trillions of universes, and you will still essentially be at the starting line.
It's unbearable.
So trillions of years pass.
Mm-hmm.
Our entire universe has been born, expanded, and died countless times over in the outside world. And Soren is still in the library.
Still there.
He is still pulling books, scanning for syntax, finding gibberish, and tossing them over the edge. He's totally numb. The hope of human connection has faded. All that is left is the routine.
It is a devastating endpoint. It's a portrait of a mind ground down to dust by sheer repetition and scale.
It really is. And it's incredibly easy to look at Soren's eternity and feel paralyzed by the sheer dread of it. But this thought experiment forces you to ask a really uncomfortable question about your own life.
Which is?
What actually gives your brief time on Earth value? Is it the end goal? Because for Soren, the goal was finding the book to get to heaven. Or is it the connections made along the way? The time he spent playing games with Rachel, the brief, intense moment of cooperation spinning through the air with Wand.
It acts as a mirror for us. If an endless existence focused purely on an ultimate goal becomes a hell of meaninglessness, it suggests that our finite lives derive their meaning precisely because they end.
Right.
The constraints of our reality, time, death, physical limits, those are the only things that give texture, urgency, and value to our relationships and our choices. Without the ending, the story loses its stakes.
We need the boundaries to make the space inside them matter.
We do, but it also leaves us with a lingering, provocative question that the text refuses to neatly answer.
Well, what's that?
Think about Soren, quadrillions of years from now. Let's imagine he actually beats the astronomical odds. He pulls a book off the shelf, opens it, and it is his perfect, error-free life story. He drops it in the slot, the chime sounds, and the glorious doors of heaven open.
He finally wins.
But will that heaven even matter to him anymore? He was a Mormon geologist from Utah for 45 short years. He will have been a wanderer in the Library of Babel for eons beyond human comprehension.
His earthly life is a microscopic, irrelevant speck compared to his time in hell.
Exactly. So will his true identity forever be the man who spent an eternity wandering? What if the search itself has rewritten his soul so completely the search has become his only real heaven and his only real hell?
Man, he wouldn't even be Soren Johansson anymore. He's just the searcher.
The library is all he is.
Yeah. You spend your whole life expecting pearly gates or a peaceful void. You think you know what the afterlife looks like. Clean, binary, understandable. And then you wake up on a squeaky folding chair across from a minor demon functionary. And you realize the true scale of eternity is something we were never ever meant to understand.